What's good, everyone? It's your boy Salty, and we're getting down with some juicy malicious compliance today. Here we go. The time I did exactly what the Japanese police and Mr. Belligerent wanted me to do. To start, this is not malicious compliance against the Japanese police, as it is against a customer from hell. Oh, and if the police are called to a dispute, they won't take sides unless a law is being broken in front of them. That's for the courts to sort out. They just keep the peace, talk to the two parties, and try to work things out. On to the story. In 2008, I was a club owner in Japan. I rented the place from a rascally old man who let me do pretty much what I wanted. The club had a motorized mirror ball hanging from the ceiling, a pool table, and projector there left over from the former renters that the landlord said I was free to use. I made a lot of money using the downtime. A club is usually wasted space during the day, setting up party space type events, after weddings, reunions, and the like. Here is an actual picture of one of the sit-down type events. And there's the disco ball. The tables would disappear at night and you have a dance floor. One party got a little rowdy, and during the festivities, the crazy host lady thought it was a good idea to pick up a chair and swing it over her head. Don't ask me why, she was very drunk. The arc of the swing launched the mirror ball into the air, smashing to the floor in 1,000 shiny pieces. After my staff cleaned up the broken glass, she promised to pay for it, and I thought that was that. I jumped online, found a like model on Amazon, and added the price to their bill. I don't remember the price, but being motorized put it up past $100, with non-motorized versions selling for much less. About 3 hours after, a very angry host lady's husband shows up, receipt in hand, saying I scammed the drunk host lady and he was going to call the police and shut me down, and rabble. Our back and forth went on for quite a while, and honestly, I was getting a bit tired of his macho, in-your-face attitude. He then said he would also talk to my landlord and get me evicted. I was at the eye-rolling stage and sarcastically said, "Oh, don't get him involved, you will regret making him mad." Unfortunately, sarcasm doesn't translate well in Japanese, and he jumped on my humor, gaffed to say I was threatening his life, and called the cops. The cops were totally professional, but a bit overzealous in responding to the call. 3 patrol cars and 2 bikes showed up. I guess the guy made it out that I was in league with the mob, and I guess Gaijin plus Yakuza in the 2000s equals overkill. They listened to us together, then they separated us and got each side of the story. Then, just to be sure, the police talking to each of us switched places and asked all over again the same questions. Slowly, the cars, one by one, went back to work, leaving only 2 motorcycle cops with us in a back and forth argument, all very tedious. Finally, one of the cops pulled me aside and said, "Look, he's willing to pay for the damage, but only if you apologize for threatening his life." Being American, where we see lawsuits everywhere, I was very reluctant to say such a thing, so I walked back to the man and the police and asked everyone, "If I apologize for him getting frightened, this whole business is done?" Angry man has his arms crossed with a macho smug, "Yeah, say you're sorry," look on his face. The 2 policemen are also waiting for me to speak. I am really sorry. Really, so sorry you get scared so easily. Had I known, implying your weakness, I would have chosen my words more carefully. Damn if extremely polite Japanese can't turn into a slap in the face. Dude turns beet red, and I swear to you, the policeman on the left let his guard down just enough to let the corners of his mouth twitch into a grin, just for a moment. Then the policeman said, "He did as you asked, now time to go home," and they herded him to his car. This guy thought he was gonna sick the mob boss on him or something.
Hey, Big Tony. Yeah, we need you to get down here. This guy ain't want to pay his bill. We gotta take care of him.
Got used for free photography. Made sure a special friend was included. I'm not a professional photographer, but I do have decent equipment and portfolio, so a lot of friends will hit me up for discounted photo shoots. Most of them pay or at least buy me dinner, but others expect me to do it for free. I'm close with my ex-boyfriend's family, so I was thrilled when his younger sister asked me to come to her prom pictures earlier this month, until she told me to bring the camera. I did mention to her that I'm doing online school and I have an exam due that week, so the pictures might not be ready for another week. She was fine with that. Within 2 hours of taking pictures of half a dozen high school students, I ended up with 300 plus shots because everyone wanted the perfect Instagram shot. Whatever, I can go home, study, and slowly work on sorting through the pictures later. They're not paying me, so I wasn't exactly motivated either. I get a text from her and her mom that night around 11 p.m. They want the pictures edited and uploaded by the next morning so they could be shown off on social media. I tried to explain that I'm studying, but they weren't having it. They said, "We don't care how you edit it, just make it look nice." Fine. I spent the next 3+ hours working on the pictures and editing them really nicely that even I was proud of. Then I hid Shrek into the background of every single picture. Shrek with his head poking out between the kids. Shrek posing happily. Shrek had a very nice time at prom, evidently. I uploaded the pics and sent them off. No one noticed the extra guest for weeks, and I got my ear chewed out because my ex's sister didn't appreciate her 900 followers on Instagram seeing Shrek grinning between her and her boyfriend. They asked me to edit however I wanted, so I delivered. Shrek was one of my best clients I've ever had. This one's just great. Throw Shrek in there and just drop the opacity a little bit. It'll take them a little while before they find out. If they ask why, just tell them that's your watermark. Ain't nobody gonna copy your work. Neighbor made me eat a raisin cookie. She won the battle, but I won the war. The bean story reminded me of something that happened when I was a little kid. A little background. My dad thought it was funny to tell me stories about food, knowing that I, like all young children, would completely believe him. Some of the stories were just funny, like broccoli is actually little baby trees, and cauliflower was broccoli that had seen a ghost and got scared. Others were gross and caused me to avoid those foods for quite a while, like telling me that anything red had blood in it. Took me years to try strawberries again, and that raisins were dried up, dead baby fingers. I honestly don't know if this story is why I hate raisins, or if I have always hated them, but even to this day, if I taste anything with raisin in it, I will spit it right out. More background. I can make myself throw up really easy, like on cue. So, because our kindergarten got out an hour or so before my parents came home from work, I had to go to a neighbor's house after school and wait. This neighbor wasn't very nice to me, or to the other 2 little kids she was watching, but I think she agreed to watch us because she was home with her daughter anyways and she wanted the extra money. Well, one day she made cookies and offered us some. I was the oldest child in the group, so while all the other kids immediately grabbed the cookies and started eating them, I asked her if they were chocolate chip cookies, knowing that if they were oatmeal raisin, I'd skip it. Instead of answering me, she put a cookie on a napkin and passed it over. I looked at the cookie very carefully and said, "If this has raisins on it, no thank you. I don't eat raisins." She glared at me and told me that since I had already touched it, I had to eat it. I said that if I ate it, I would get sick. At this point, the other kids realized that the cookies they had happily been munching on were not chocolate chip, so one by one they started putting their cookies down. The neighbor yelled at me for being a bad influence, which in that moment was true, but also not my fault that the younger kids automatically copy the older kids, and that I had better eat the cookie or else she was going to spank me and then put me in timeout until my parents got there. Well, I was pissed, so I decided to throw up on her. I ate the entire cookie, basically swallowing chunks of it whole so I wouldn't have to touch the raisins any more than absolutely necessary, and washed it down with a glass of milk. The whole time she was watching me with this sick smile of victory on her face. Right as I finished the last bite, she stands up and goes, "There, was that so hard?" I chose that exact minute to projectile vomit all over the table, her shirt, and her shoes. I actually vomited a few times because while I can start at will, stopping isn't really in my control until I'm done. Well, of course she was screaming, the other kids were crying, and I was feeling much better about things. I went to the bathroom, mainly to rinse my mouth out, but also to avoid having to help clean up the mess. Thankfully, they had some books and bath toys in there, so I just read and played by myself quietly until my parents came to get me. According to my mom, neighbor was absolutely livid and was telling my mom what had happened, and my mom cut her off and said, "Well, why would you make her eat something she told you would make her sick?" Neighbor made some comment about how parents should be in charge of what kids eat, and my mom just laughed, shook her head, and said, "Get used to cleaning up messes then." She knew that I was a notoriously good eater, with only a handful of exceptions due to my dad's creative parenting style. She took me home, and while I didn't get into trouble, she told me that she knew I had probably done it on purpose, and in the future I should find a better way to solve things. It's a cookie, for Christ's sake. Like, it's not food, it's not dinner time. Like, you're gonna make her eat the cookie? It sounds like her dad is also the antagonist in this story. Just saying.
Alright everybody, this is Fat Tony speaking. Hope you all enjoyed the show. Like and subscribe, or I'm gonna have to take care of Salty. We're gonna hide him in a ditch. That's how Mafia works.